So this is about the time that my toxic best friend tried to sleep with my dad. To provide just a little bit of backstory, we'll call this friend Jordan. And I met her over this past summer, and it turned out we both had kids around the same age. So of course, wanting my kid to have a little bit of interaction, we decided to do play dates together. Our kids started hanging out so much that we got really, really close. And I honestly considered her to be really trustworthy, so I decided to invite her to this family cookout. And that's when things really hit the fan. From a distance, I saw herself introducing herself to my dad, giving herself a little hair flip, and blatantly flirting. I would like to add that Jordan has been happily married for years. So watching this flirting get worse, I decided to confront both of them. I was like, yo, I do not approve of you hooking up with my dad. He's 20 years older than you and you are married. She was like, okay, and I thought it was left at that. So months go by and I have her over to help me take pictures for OnlyFans. I was doing like a little promotion thing and she offered to hop in the pictures with me, which I thought was totally cool. But then her husband comes home to surprise her. And then I kid you not, he looks over her shoulder and sees her sending them to my dad. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2 to my toxic friend trying to sleep with my dad. So after Jordan's husband came home and saw that she was sending my dad the OnlyFans pictures we took, he turned around and got upset with me and accused me of trying to set them up. He told me to get out of the house, but then followed me trying to confront me at the same time. I called my dad soon after to get his point of view from the story, and he said that she just willingly sent him. He never asked for any of them. At least that's just what he claims. And now it's been almost 2 months of this battle, and I've barely been able to speak to my own dad. She has tried multiple times to become my friend again, and I decided to even test her to see if that was possible by giving her some information that was not true to see if she'd tell my dad. My dad knew almost immediately. It's kind of a bummer because her husband was a really cool guy, but I no longer want someone like this in my life. Follow me on Instagram for more content, and if you have a story that you would like to share, DM me.
Story time about how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So a little background information. This all happened last year. So originally I was working in a warehouse, but whenever COVID hit, lost my job, I had to get a new job. So I applied at Walmart in the electronics section because they paid more money, period. And on my second day, I finally went and started working in electronics. So they had asked some of the employees to show me around. So while this one employee was showing me around, he took me to the back where the photos were. Well, whenever I got back there, this employee named Terry said, "Oh, she's mine." I just laughed and brushed it off because I felt super uncomfortable and awkward. And he knew I was underage because my name tag was yellow. But even after that, he still kept coming up to me, calling me weird names, just being a total creep. Like, he would keep coming up to me and get super close to me to the point where I could literally feel him fucking breathing on my face. So of course I told my manager about it. They said he's done this before, so I was like, why the fuck is he still here? So they moved me to garden. And while I was working in the gardening section, I met this guy named Jordan. Like for a part 2. Part 2 of how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. Something I forgot to mention in the first part, I reported Terry several times and they still did nothing about it. So like I said, then I met this kid Jordan, him and I started getting close, and work actually started to become fun. Well, finally, after a month, we decided that we were going to go out to lunch during work. So the day that we went out to lunch, he kept telling me that he needed to tell me something. But he was like beating around the bush the whole time. Like for some reason, he just couldn't get out what he wanted to tell me. But then he kept trying to change the subject like he wasn't the one who brought it up in the first place. I should have took that as a red flag before we went to lunch, but I didn't. So he keeps going on about it in the car, right? And then he's like, I'm not really 20, I'm 25 turning 26. So then for some reason after that, whenever he saw my mood change, this guy has the audacity to start touching my legs, fucking rubbing my inner thigh and shit. I kept telling him to stop. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So then I told him I'm getting out of the car. And he says, I'm not gonna let you like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So like I said, he wouldn't let me out of the car, but then we got back to work. And then he had the audacity to keep asking if I was okay when he literally just sexually harassed me in the car. So I went to the bathroom, literally had a whole fucking mental breakdown. I called my mom to come get me because I was not finna stay there. So the next time that I went back to work, I grabbed my stuff and I gave it to one of the workers to go and give to a manager and tell them that I was quitting. Well, one of the managers caught me walking out the back door and she was like, what's wrong? So I immediately broke down. I started telling her what was going on. And then a crowd of people came around us being nosy as fuck, listening to what I was saying. And she was like, you're not quitting. I'm going to take care of this. So she sent me home and she said that she would call me whenever it was taken care of. So 2 days goes past. I'm like, why the fuck hasn't she called? So then I call and I found out that she fired me. So I reported everything to Walmart ethic team and they just closed my case. They basically didn't do shit about it. Oh, and Jordan wasn't really a manager. He was a supervisor. Should I try to take this to court? Storytime, my boyfriend wouldn't let me break up with him, so I cheated on him with his best friend. So we're gonna call my boyfriend Jay and his best friend Mike. Well, I met these two boys through my best friend, and I really liked Mike. Mike and I would talk all the time. We would FaceTime 24/7. But whenever the subject of dating came up, he said that he couldn't because his best friend really liked me. So he was trying to set me up with Jay, but not really because he really liked me. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll date Jay for a little bit and then I'll break up with him. Worst mistake of my fucking life. Every time I would try to break up with this kid, he would be like, I'm gonna kill myself now. And he would send me videos with him holding up a knife to his neck, cutting his arms whenever I would say we're breaking up. So pretty much I was forced into that relationship. He was manipulative as fuck. It was just not a good situation. Well, the one day Jay was like, oh, do you want to come over Mike's house with me? And of course I said yeah, because I literally was still in love with Mike, his best friend. And my parents were super strict, so I had to sneak over there like for part 2. Part 2 of how my boyfriend wouldn't let me break up with him, so I cheated on him with his best friend. For the new people, Mike is the best friend and Jay is the guy who I was dating. Anyway, so we get to Mike's house, right? And we're all hanging out and I was giving Mike a little bit more attention than I was giving Jay. Because obviously I wasn't interested in Jay. So Jay decided to act like he was pissed off at me, right? And he walks out of the house, right? To see if I would chase after him. Like, obviously I'm not going to. So Mike and I are sitting there watching him walk down the street because he said he was going home. So Mike and I were sitting on the couch and we started making out. And then we heard the fucking front door open. And Jay's like, I can't believe you didn't come and talk to me after that, blah, blah, blah. What is this relationship? So then Mike steps in and he's like, yo, you need to drop her. She just tried to make out with me, blah, blah, blah. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, it's true. So Jay starts bawling his eyes out and goes to the fucking kitchen to grab a knife. So after that, Mike called the cops on him and Mike and I are finally dating now.
Story time of how I had an affair with my brother-in-law. By the way, I was 12 and he was 22. This happened a while back. I'm now 16. At the time, I was 12. I barely got on social media. I wasn't really supposed to have it, but I still had an account. So at a family party, I asked my brother-in-law if I could use his phone to go onto my account. He gave me his phone, but when I gave it back, I realized I forgot to log out. And I was, of course, texting other guys. And he obviously saw the conversations and read all of the messages between me and the guys, which I believe made him give hints to me. And he started talking to me, but I didn't really notice at the time. There were times when I did see him and he'd get very touchy. I would tell him to stop, but he told me if I ever told anyone about us, he was going to tell everyone, including my parents, that I was talking to other guys on social media. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I didn't say anything. If you want a part 2, let me know down below in the comments. This is part 2 of how I had an affair with my brother-in-law. By the way, I was 12 and he was 22. So, like I said earlier, he threatened to basically tell everyone that I was talking to other guys on social media if I told anyone about what was going on between us. I was scared because I wasn't allowed to have social media, so I played this game. Until I was 15 and he started inviting me to places alone. So I agreed and he later forced me into doing nasty things. I had no other option because I knew if I spoke up about it, I'd be the one to blame. He started asking for pictures and I'd send them, but then I started to ask for things in return, like ordering things online for me. So it was going on for a while and I would send him pictures in exchange for him to order stuff for me online. Until about a month ago, I was on my sister's iPad and I forgot to log out and she saw all the messages of him asking for pictures, and thankfully I said no and kept denying it. Yes, I know I suck at logging off, but to this day, me and my sister barely. Story time of how my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. By the way, we're calling her Alexis. So me and Alexis have been friends since we were babies. Our moms were best friends and they sent us to the same school, had the same friends and everything. But the thing with Alexis is that she was super jealous and insecure. Whenever I did anything without her, she'd get very controlling. We got to high school, we started to drift apart, and I made new friends. But like after school, she'd always tell me that she didn't like my friends and that I'd be better off finding prettier friends. I would tell her, yeah, they might not be the most prettiest, but I like them. One day when I go to school, all of my friends are ignoring me and are giving me dirty looks. When I go to lunch, one of the most annoying boys walks up to me and tells me there's a rumor going around saying I was talking mad crazy about my friends and that they were planning on jumping me after school. If you want to know what happened after that, let me know down below. This is part 2 of how my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. So, like I said before, this kid comes up to me telling me there's a rumor going around saying I was talking mad crazy about my friends and that they were planning on jumping me after school. And in my head, I'm like, so that's why nobody's talking to me? So I went to my best friend at the time, which started the whole mess and I didn't know, I asked her if she heard anything about this going around, about them wanting to jump me after school. She laughs at me and says I should have kept my mouth shut. I get completely irritated because it's like now I don't have her support. After school comes and everybody quickly runs outside. Me, I'm stalling. I'm very slow at my locker. When I come outside, all of my friends are lined up and everyone gathered to see what was about to go down. I'm running out of time. Y'all let me know down below in the comments if y'all want a part 3. This is part 3 from my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. So like I said, I walk outside and everyone is gathered around. I walk up to one of them saying, all the rumors that they heard aren't true. One of my friends said, you know what you said, and pulled into my hair. And at that moment, I tried to swing back, but I just get jumped on. And they literally jumped me. After the whole thing was over, my best friend Alexis helped me. We went to her house and she cleaned me up and said that those girls were fake and that I should have listened to her earlier about not being friends with them. And I was confused on why she was helping me because she laughed in my face when I asked about it. But I left it alone because at least she was helping me and maybe she was right. Fast forward 2 weeks later, one of my friends who jumped me reached out to me apologizing. I asked her why and who even told you I was talking badly about you. Guys, believe it or not, after I get done speaking with her, I found out that my best friend Alexis lied and told them I was talking badly about them, and the girl even sent fake screenshots of messages between me and her. This story time is how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. Well, leave me. So I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years and we started dating since we were both 19. When it came to the relationship, I was more so the breadwinner. I paid most of the dates and I was there for him emotionally. I would invest hundreds of dollars into his business ideas that failed, unfortunately. We even got an apartment, and at one point I was working, going to school, and paying for all of the bills, cooking, cleaning, and I never asked anything of him because I didn't want him to see me as a gold digger. And he would spend time playing video games and working on his rap music. It wasn't the best, but I believed in his dream. So I basically took care of him. A couple years later, his grandfather passed and left him $500,000 in his will. And at the time, he started to get really distant. He was using that money and never spent any on me. I expressed my concerns, and he said that he was done with the relationship. And from that moment, I lied and said I was pregnant. If you want to know what happened this is part 2 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So, like I said, he was given $500,000 from his grandpa's will and wanted to leave me. So I lied and said I was pregnant. Now, I wasn't upset that he wouldn't give me part of the money. I always had my own money, and quite frankly, most of it would go to him. I was just hurt because I sacrificed and invested so much into this man to prosper, and once he was financially stable, he wanted to leave me. Now, at this time, I wasn't physically pregnant. I lied. Now, when he found out, he stayed with me, and I stopped taking birth control. So literally within 3 weeks later, I got pregnant. And even though he was with me, he wasn't really with me. He really didn't come to none of the appointments and wouldn't check up on me. He became mean and started cheating on me. There's more to the story. Come back for part 3. This is part 3 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So, like I said before, I got pregnant and then he started to act really distant and he cheated on me. He told me he wanted to leave the relationship multiple times, but then again, his actions showed different because he'd always come around and did things that people in relationships would do. And around this time, money started to get tight. I would ask him if he could pay for certain things, and he would refuse and then started to say I was only with him for money. But what was crazy to me is that most of the relationship, he had nothing, and I was the one working. And still, when I was pregnant, I was the one working. And with the money he had got, he would buy himself nice clothes, got himself a car. And the girl he was cheating on me with, he bought her the most expensive clothes. And I wanted the relationship so bad that I allowed him to have side chicks. I never asked him questions, and he still never wanted me. A week before the baby's due date, he completely left me and went with the girl he was cheating on me with. If you want to know what I did after that, this is part 4 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So a week before the baby's due date, he completely left me. I was devastated. I became depressed, suicidal. And because I was so stressed, the doctor said that I needed to calm down because my blood pressure started to get super high and that would be good for me or the baby. After the baby was born, he came around to see the baby. At some points, he tricked me into thinking we were getting back together. And once he had slept with me, he'd leave again and go back to the other girl. I tried to tell his new girlfriend about it, but she didn't believe me and called me crazy. I'd always see him make posts about her, spoil her, and everything. After 2 years, I got a therapist because I started to get anxiety attacks. And I found out I was codependent and I had abandonment issues due to my father not being there for me. And I was afraid of being alone and a man not truly loving me. And I allowed someone to treat me horrible because I didn't want to be alone. Regardless, no girl should have gone through what I did. All girls should love and put themselves first.